cover in the next 50 minutes, we're going to cover just an introduction to Canvas. It's going to be a mile wide and an inch deep. We're just going to go through most of the buttons and that kind of thing, and most of what the screens might look like and what you might use them for. So when you log into Canvas, what you probably run into is your dashboard. And your dashboard should look something like this. It should have cards of all the courses that you're currently enrolled in. And if you're in a class, the instructor might have put on a nice little picture. If you want to do that, you can certainly do that in the settings, and I'll show you where that is later. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click into my practice course, my little sandbox that we mess with. And I've set my home page to be the syllabus page. Now the syllabus page has two parts. You can edit this portion up here, and then it has an auto-generated part that comes from the things that you create, your assignments, your discussions, your quizzes. All that information gets created down here, and any due dates that you have will show on the right-hand side so the students know when things are due. When you create a due date on anything, a discussion, a quiz, an assignment, it'll show up on the syllabus. It'll show up on the calendar that the students might have, and it will show up in their to-do list for each one of the students as well. So it shows, and it'll of course show up on the actual assignment or discussion itself as well. So when I say choose home page, that's this option right here. So when I choose this, I have several options here. Course activity stream is kind of like what's happened recently in the course or for the students to see. So that kind of works after you've got the majority of your course done, because it'll show the things that have changed. Pages as front page. This is where you can create your own page. So you can do HTML or you can just put your own content in and make a page be your home page. You can have students jump straight into modules, and we'll talk about those in a minute, or straight into the assignment list as well. Again, I've chosen the syllabus to be my home page, so I'm going to just go ahead and save that. So like I said, you can edit this top part. So if we click the edit button here, you'll see that you get your RCE, which is called a rich content editor. And you have a whole bunch of formatting options here, including like inserting media or pictures, videos, all of our integrated tie-ins, whether you play pause it, Panopto, those kind of things. As well as you can just type in text, you can create hyperlinks, and all that information is stored. And so when you say update syllabus, you'll just get this information at the top and then the auto-generated stuff at the bottom. And that's unique to the syllabus page, this auto-generated information. And if you ever get lost inside Canvas, you can always just click home and it'll take you back to whatever you've chosen as the home page. On the right-hand side here, one of the coolest things is Student View. When you click on Student View, it does exactly what you think it's going to do. It's going to give you this, except for the whole fuchsia bar at the bottom, but you'll get to see what the students see. And this is really helpful for maybe previewing a quiz or looking at an assignment or making sure that the things you published and didn't publish show and don't show. And you can go through that. And even if you happen to take a quiz as the student view, you can always reset it. So if you take a quiz and then you want to go back and fix some things in the quiz, and then you want to go back and try it again, you'll need to reset the student view, and that'll get rid of any grades, any questions answered, anything like that, and make a fresh fake student view. And then when you're finished, you just always hit leave student view, and it'll take it back to your normal view. The other thing to mention on the right hand side here is the new analytics. If you click on new analytics, it's going to take you into your course. And by default, it starts showing you participation. So if you roll over any of these dots, you'll be able to see that there are an average of about 2 page views on that day and 17 total. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see all the students in your class and any page views they did and their any participations, which means they slightly interacted with the content as opposed to just looked at it. You could change your weekly online activity up here, or you can look at the course grades for the class. So if I change this to course grades, you're going to see more dots here, and you'll see the icons for each activity we have. So that's the icon for an assignment, that's an icon for a quiz, and it corresponds. So if you roll over this, it'll tell you what assignment it's talking about, and that's the grade, the average class grade for that assignment. If I were to click on this dot, it would break it down a little further and show me the low, the high, the middle, how many people are missing, that kind of information. A very powerful tool that's often overlooked is the message students who. So if you click on this, you can message students who scored anywhere from a 0 to a 50, so or a 60, and say they got a failing grade. And you can address just those students. You can address the students who didn't turn in their homework by clicking on missing, or you can address the students who are currently late in submitting their homework. So it's a neat little feature where you'll be able to just talk to that particular subset of students. So if I close out of this, you can see here you can sort. So if you don't want to look, if all you want to do is look at quizzes, you can turn off discussions and turn off assignments, and then you'll get nothing but quizzes. And you can always change those back by adding more, adding the checkboxes back. Here you can sort. If you have a cross-listed course, you're currently looking at all sections, but you could look at each individual section if you want, or you could look at just an individual student and see what they've been up to. Here in our three dots, this is kind of a graphical representation. You can change it to a data table if data tables, kind of Excel looking, makes more sense to you, and that's just a preference. All right, so we're going to go back to the home page. All right, so the next thing going down the list is the announcements, and this is exactly what you think it is. It's just a way to make an announcement to a class. You're going to click on the blue button at the top. It says plus announcement, and this allows you to create a new one. You're just going to type a title, whatever the announcement's going to be, and you can see here that you could post it by default. It's all sections, but you can change this again to the individual sections. If you have like a Tuesday, Thursday class and a Monday, Wednesday class, and you want to send them different announcements, you can do that. You can attach a file to this, so that's pretty powerful. You can say, hey, don't forget to look at my notes, and here's the notes for the class. I like this delay posting idea here because this allows you to set a time. So I could set up my announcement on Wednesday and I want it to go out on Friday at 4 p.m. and say done. And so then this announcement won't go out until 4 o'clock on Friday, and it will go out automatically. You don't have to be logged in or anything like that. It'll just go out on its own. You can allow users to comment on your announcements. So if you're making an announcement and you want students to be able to ask questions, kind of like a discussion thread, you can allow them to make comments. You can also force them to see other comments before they post their own comment, which can be an advantage if people have already asked the question. You don't want to get repeats. And if you're really into it, you can allow them to like your announcement. Totally up to you. Inside the rich content editor, though, you'll see this all throughout Canvas. It's in every assignment, discussion, page, announcements, all those kind of things. You can type all the things you want here. You can use the link icon to create hyperlinks. You can insert pictures and media and tables, YouTube videos, and again, all those plugins we talked earlier about. You'll notice on the right-hand side that you do have links, files, and images, and these are stuff that's within your Canvas course. So for example, if you said, go to the assignment, you could then click on assignments, and once that loads, you'll be able to choose what assignment you're talking about. So if I want to send them to this assignment, I just click that, and now they can go straight to the assignment via this link, and it'll take them straight to it. And that works with pages or announcements, discussions, modules. You can link in files that you already have into your Canvas course or image that you already have into your Canvas course. All right, so I'm not going to save this as announcement. And when you come here, this is all your previous announcements, and you'll be able to see that you have one unread reply and one reply from a student, and you'll be able to see those back on each of your announcements, so you can quickly come in and check and see if any of the new replies have come in. You'll also receive a notification that there's been a reply to your email. All right, assignments. This is probably where the meat of the course exists. This is where you'll create different assignments, different assignment groups, and that kind of thing. And just a brief overview of what groups are is groups allows you to maybe weight your classes. So like testing is worth 15%, your assignments are worth 52%. These quizzes, they're just for practice, so they're not actually worth any towards the final grades. So they're worth 0%. And this is called weighting of your assignments. And if you come to the assignments training session later, we'll get more in depth about this. So if I'm going to create an assignment, I hit that blue button up there. And again, this looks very familiar. You're putting in a title for the assignment. You're typing all of your instructions. Again, you have all the same plugins and formatting capability. You have the ability to link to outside to the other things inside your Canvas course, your files, your images, all that good stuff. You come down here, you'll be able to assign how many points it's worth. So I was going to say it's worth 100 points. And if you have assignment groups set up, if this is a normal assignment, you would go ahead and put it in the, I'm going to put it in the assignment group that's worth 50% of the grade. And your display grade is quickly easy. That's percentage, you know, if you just want to be complete or incomplete. If you do complete incomplete, it'll be either a 0 or 100. You have points. You could set up your own grading scales. And again, we'll talk about that in the assignments class more. You can make this like a practice assignment to where you do give them a grade, but you don't want it to count towards their final grade. You can check this box. And then submission type. So most times in Canvas, you're going to make them submit their homework online. So you can give them a text box, which will be pretty much this box right here, where they can type in their information. You can do a website URL, so they'll just submit a URL to you. Media recordings allow the students to use the Canvas's built-in recording function to record, let's say, a video back. So this comes in handy in like foreign language courses. So you can tell them, you know, I want you to read a paragraph or practice your oral skills, and then they can record themselves speaking in whatever language, and you can see that later. And probably the most common is file uploads. So you can click this and the students will be able to submit, you know, Excel documents, Word documents, PDFs, all that kind of stuff. If you want to be specific, you can restrict the file type. So what you would do is just come down here and do doc, comma, docx, comma, you know, PDF. And you can restrict it to a particular file type. And this way you're maybe not getting, you know, strange, like those strange like Google extensions. They didn't export the file correctly, stuff like that. You don't have to worry about, you know, if you get Mac extensions or PC extensions, you can definitely put in what you want. If you're doing a written paper, like for the class, you can turn on plagiarism review when you have an online submission. So we only use Turnitin, so that's the only option here. When you choose Turnitin, you'll come up with all these options here, but pretty much what you're interested in is if you want to submit this paper to the repository. Now, it'll still check the paper for plagiarism, but do you want to submit it? So you can choose standard, institution, or don't submit the papers to the repository. And again, we'll get more in depth in the assignments training. And you can whether you want to show the report, whether it was plagiarized or not, immediately or after the due date, all that kind of information. You can set up group assignments, peer review assignments. If you have TAs and stuff, you can do anonymous grading, and then the assign box. And by default, it's assigned to everybody in the class. You can choose different sections if you want. If you have, you want to set, you know, put different due dates for, let's say for the Tuesday, Thursday class, you could choose that and take off the everyone, so it's just that section, and give them a due date. And then you would click add and go ahead and do everyone else or the other section and put in a different due date, and you can save it. Now the big difference here is save is just for you. You're saving it, but you haven't given it to the students yet. If you do save and publish, publish allows it to be viewable for the students. Once you've done that, when it brings you back, you'll come back to your assignments page, whether you saved and published it, and you'll see it listed here. All these green circles mean that these are published. And if it's not published, it has this circle with a line through it. So students won't be able to see this one, but they'll see all the green ones. Okay. All right, moving right along. If you decide to take attendance in class using the attendance tool inside Canvas, when you click on attendance, you'll be able to see a list of your students and be able to mark them as present, absent, late, or back to null. And you can switch the calendar view up here, and you can say, oh, well, I forgot to mark them from yesterday, and you can do that. If you have multiple sections, you can switch to sections up here, and now you're going to mark up a different section and tell them if they were present or absent or came in late, absent, that kind of thing. This does keep a rolling score, which means it's by default on a scale from 0 to 100. and it does the math for you. So let's say they have been to class 3 out of 4 times, they're going to get a 75% for this. And you can, underneath this little gear icon, do an attendance report. So at the end of the semester or at any given time, you can pull up the report and you can run it on the entire class or a particular student. And it'll give you an Excel document of all the presents, absence, and missings. So we have integrated SMU Box into Canvas as well. So this is one of our integrations. When you load this, the first time you'll be asked to log in, and you can use the SSO. Once you've logged in before or you're logged into Canvas, you're just going to take this cloud and drop it in the cutout, and that's going to load your box. Now you will only see your box. Students, if they come in here and click on box, they will see their box, not yours. This is just a way to interact with your box and look at files or get files. You can put, you can link to files, and that's in the rich content editor underneath that little blue chevron where I showed you all those other plugins like PlayPosit and Panopto. Box is one of them, and you can choose to link a file from your Box account into that rich content editor. I won't get into Cengage, but I just wanted to let you know that stuff like that is possible. It allows you to put in publisher content. Cengage, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, all those guys have built supplements that you can put into your course with Canvas. And if you need to have that done, if it's not part of the default, like McGraw-Hill Connect is one of them. If it's not one of those, you can always contact the help desk and they'll put in a ticket and we can get that installed for you. Unfortunately, though, we don't support publisher content, meaning we can't really help you troubleshoot it. All we can do is make sure that it's integrated. And at that point, after that, you'll need to contact your rep at the publishers to learn how to use the content, learn how to use their integrated system, pass back grades, all that good stuff. You'll need to work with them for that. It's just that they change all the time, and there are so many of them, we can't keep up with the publisher stuff. Chatbox is built into Canvas, and is exactly what you think it is. It allows you to chat with anybody who might be online. And you would see a long list here if there were other people in the course, and you could just chat back and forth in it. And you could turn on this new message alert. So if you're online, but maybe you're looking at something else, watching Netflix or whatever, it'll ping you and let you know that someone else has put a chat in here for you. Class Notebooks is another plugin. That's actually OneNote. So I won't get into this at all because it's a whole class by itself, but OneNote is integrated. Collaborations allows you to build collaborative documents, and right now at SMU we use Google for this. So you would have to integrate Google into your profile, which is this guy up here, and you could then build Google Docs and place them in here and allow students up to 50 at a time to interact with a document all at the same time and make edits and updates and that kind of thing. Canvas Conferences is sponsored by Big Blue Button. It's a company out of Canada who does a lot of things like Zoom does. So the advantage is you can build a conference in here, and all the students will be able to get into it. They're all invited to it. They'll get a notification that you've built one. If you click join, you can jump into the conference. And again, it's a lot like Zoom. It's a lot like we're doing here. There's a chat screen. There's a participation screen. There's breakout rooms. You can record it. There's a whiteboard, all that kind of good stuff. The big differences is that this conference is limited to the folks who are registered in the class. So you can't invite outside people to this. And the recordings, if you make a recording, are only available for 14 days. After 14 days, you'll still see the link here, but it actually doesn't work. You'll see that it's not a hyperlink anymore. I can't click on it. And again, that's after 14 days. So it may be some advantage, like if you're doing some office hours, you don't really need to keep those, but you want to record them for people who couldn't make it, but 14 days later, it's kind of not relevant. Or if you're doing a review for a test, 14 days, again, it'll go away. And you can delete them manually if you want. So if you want to do a review for a test, and you want to leave that recording up for just 4 days, but the day before the test, or the day of the test, you want to delete it, you can come in here and remove it. And then that way, no one can access it after the fact or during the test. Discussions. This is discussion board inside Canvas. This looks familiar with the big blue plus discussion up here at the top. In your discussions, you'll see the titles here. This one's published. You can see it's green. This one's not published. It's grayed out. But you can see here that I have 24 replies, but I have read them all. So there's no unread replies that are in here. The little icon here, it tells you that you're subscribed. What that means is that when someone posts a new reply, you're going to get a notification that there's been a reply in here. This one I've unsubscribed, which you can see is grayed out, and you get the little red circle with a line through it. You have closed for comments, and so you can take any one of your discussions and drag it around by these little handlebars, and you can drop it into closed for comments, which essentially closes the discussion completely, and you can use the little arrows to open and close that. You also have pen discussions, and this is a great place to put, like, if you have a general Q&A discussion for the entire class, which I think is a great idea. It allows the students to ask general questions to the instructor without having to email you and that kind of thing. And other students can answer each other. So you could say, hey, where did that assignment go? And another student could reply and say, oh, it's here, and provide the link or something like that. So if you pen a discussion, it'll always be at the top, whereas these will be in order that you created them. Creating a discussion will look very similar to creating an assignment or creating a quiz. Again, you have your title, you have your directions, you have all these plugins here. And since I mentioned it earlier, Box, there's your Box plugin if you want to link a file. And don't forget, you have all your files and other discussions and assignments and quizzes that you have available inside your Canvas course over here. Typical all sections is by default. You can change this to individual sections if you want. And you have your browse to attach an assignment, allow threaded replies, which makes sense. This just allows students to talk to each other.
Can I interrupt briefly?
Sure.
It's been asked a couple of times. The sections is only if you have sections cross-listed.
Yep.
You might explain that.
Okay. So every course that's created in Canvas is created by its section. So each course has one section in it. So if you're teaching, let's say like this 1313, and you're teaching sections 4, 5, and 6, when you first log into Canvas, you will actually see 3 cards on your dashboards. So for one for 4, one for 5, and one for 6. If you want to have those, if you want to cross-list those, you can cross-list those. There are guides to show you how to do that. Otherwise, you can also put in a help desk ticket to help get someone to help you cross-list it for the first time. And if you have all those cross-listed, then when you go to your dashboard, you'll see one card for disk 1313, and all 3 sections will be inside that one course. And so that's what you see here is I have 3 sections inside this one course. The only downside to all that is, let's say you make section 4 what we call the parent course, which means that's the one that's going to house sections 4, 5, and 6. When students log into Canvas, they're going to see disk 1313 section 4. Even though they're in section 5 or section 6, they're going to see it say section 4. So you might want to send an announcement or an email to everyone that says, hey, I've combined them, you're going to see section 4. And most times that's not a problem. Students know they're in disk 1313, so they just go ahead and click on it anyway. But it is a possibility. All right, so back to discussions. You can force students to see to post before they see the other students' replies. So this comes in handy, like if you want them to post an original thought, you don't want them to read everybody else's information and then kind of, say, oh yeah, me too. You don't want them to do that. When they first come in, they'll only see your title and your directions, and then they'll have to reply and post their own original thought. And once they do that, then they'll be able to see the other students, and then they can reply to other students. So in most cases, when you create a discussion, you want them to post an original thought, and then you may require them to reply to another student, 1 or 2 other students, just to provide feedback. You can grade discussions. If you click this here and click graded, now you have points available and what category you're going to put it in, what assignment group, and when it's going to be due. I'm going to turn that off real quick. You can allow them to like your posts and like each other posts if you want to. And then this last one's a new one. You can add it to the student's to-do list. So if it's not graded and doesn't have a due date, but you still want to ping the students so that it's available to them, you can add it to their to-do list. If it's graded, this is kind of a moot point because it'll already be added to their to-do list, to the syllabus page, and to their calendar. You can make it available and until, but if you do graded, you'll get the full thing with a due date. Now, just for a point of clarification, when you do a due date, that means, let's say it's due on Friday, you can still have it available, say Monday through Friday. So you would put Monday in here and Friday in here. If you want to be able to accept late assignments, then this date can be later than the due date. So this might be available from Monday to Sunday, but technically it's due on Friday. And that allows them to still submit on Saturday and Sunday if you want them to. If you don't want to accept any late dates, then you want to make the due date and the until date match. And when that until date passes, this object, whether it's a discussion, a quiz, or assignment, will no longer be clickable and students won't be able to submit or participate. All right, let me cancel that. And again, once you save it, if you just save it, it comes here, but it's unpublished. If you save and publish, it'll become green. If you want to work on it later, that's why you would do save, and you could always come in here and click this little button, and then that's published, and it would make it available to the students. We're going to skip over, I'll just show you grades, but we won't get in depth here because this is a pretty in-depth screen. But basically what it does is it lists your students down, and then it has all of your assignments over to the right and any grades they might have. In the assignments, you can click on a particular one and input a grade manually, or you can open the card, which is kind of like a miniature speed grader, and you can put in a grade, late, missing, executed, put comments, and you can move to the next student by hitting the right button, and you can see that this moved down. And if I hit it again, it moves down to the next student. Or you can jump into the speed grader from here. So if we're on a particular assignment like this one, and I open the card, and I want to jump to the speed grader, I can just click on it, and it'll take me straight into the speed grader where I can see if they have any submissions. So you can see that there's an MP4 here, and then I can view rubrics or grades, assignments, provide feedback, and all that information is listed right here inside SpeedGrader. You'll be able to see that I've graded 9 out of 10 students, so I'm only missing one, and it gives you the averages for the class and tells you what student you're on. So you're actually on the second student out of the 10 students in the class. And so if I want to switch students, I can either hit the drop-down arrow and switch students, or I can just hit the right button and it'll take me to the next student. This student submitted a paper. I've been able to use these different annotation features up here to kind of mark on it, highlight things, leave comments on the right-hand side, and students will be able to see all of your markups. I've already graded them using the rubric and left a comment as well that they've done some nice work. The one thing to remember is grades and comments are auto-saved, but your comments down here, you need to hit submit in order to submit the comment to the student. Everything else is auto-saved, and when you go to the next student, it is saved for you. And this is what a PowerPoint might look like in a submission, and you can see a list of comments down here. So this is your speed grader, and this is where you'll do most of your grading and commenting and feedback to the students. All right. The file section inside Canvas is where you have your repository. You can create subfolders inside your course in order to help you navigate your files and what makes sense in your head. You do have the files listed here. You can see that these are published, which means the students can access them. So whether I've linked it in or I've told them to go to the file section and download this file, that means students do have access. The one eyeball with a line through it means it's only available to students. I've set this to only be available to students with the link. Or I can set it as unpublished, which means I'm the only one who can see it. And then the last possibility is to set a file based on a schedule so they can access, let's say, the test review Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then close it before the test on Thursday. You can upload files by clicking the upload button up here. You can create folders by clicking the plus folder button. Or if later on you forgot, man, where did I put that file? You can search by name up here, and it'll search through all of the subfolders looking for that file title. You can download a copy for yourself if you are on a different computer or away from your desk at the time. rename files, move them, delete them, all that good stuff right inside the files section. Next is library help. Library help is built into all courses across SMU, and it hooks back to the library if you have this turned on. We'll get to the settings later where you can change this menu on the right-hand side. I've got everything turned on for the sake of training. But the library help allows people to, the library maintains a particular file that hooks into all the courses based off of the initialism. So it knows that, like DISC is in Simmons, and so it knows what librarian is an expert in DISC courses, and it'll link to that librarian and give the resources to the student that might pertain to it. For example, accounting, it'll link to one of the business librarians. It will link to the databases that are pertinent to accounting and those courses. And so if you use the library, this is a great plugin. Lockdown browser. So Lockdown browser is a browser like Firefox or like Chrome. It's a separate browser. And you would use this on top of a classic quiz, not a new quiz. And on top of a classic quiz, it'll force the students to log into, they'll have to use Lockdown browser and log into Canvas to take the quiz. The brilliance of Lockdown browser is once they've launched Lockdown browser, they are locked into that. They can't trade screens. They can't, switch to a different browser in order to search the internet. They can't copy and paste. They can't get to a chat window. They can't do any of that stuff on the computer that they're on. The only way to get out of it is to submit the quiz or close the browser entirely, which would end the session. When you first log in here, you'll be able to see a tutorial video here. I recommend you watch at least the welcome one. There's other video tutorials if you want to get more in depth. But I'll just show you real quick. If you go into it, it'll list all the quizzes that you currently have in your course. And you hit the little down arrow and you want to change the settings. And if you want to require Lockdown browser for this particular quiz, you check that little bubble there and you'll be able to save and close. These are just the default settings, and that'll cover the majority of your needs. If you watch the tutorials and you find some of these advanced settings more applicable, you can get into those. You can do things like whitelist URLs so that they can go to a particular URL, but the one caveat is that they can only go to that URL, which means they can't click on any links to get out of that website. So if you sent them to nasa.gov and you wanted them to click on the article that's on the front page, they couldn't click on the article because you've only put nasa.gov. You would actually have to put the deep link to the article. Respondus Monitor is one that actually records the student while they're taking the test. So it records their screen and themselves. You can turn that on if you want to record whatever, but it is automated in the sense that no one's going to tell you whether a student has cheated or not. There just might be some red flags when you go to review it later that lets you know that maybe they stepped out of the screen or they ducked their head down as if they were looking at their phone in their lap, things like that. And they're just flags. So then you'll have to watch those flagged segments to see whether or not the student was cheating. And again, that's on you to review that and see if anything is amiss. Once you've turned it on, you'll be able to see that it is required for that particular quiz, but I have not required monitor. When students come in, they click on the quiz. When they go to the quiz, it's going to give them a message that says Lockdown browser is required for this quiz. You can download Lockdown browser here. Now, it's not a smart link, so it doesn't know if they already have it installed or not. It just always says the same thing. It is important that students get the Lockdown browser from that link because it is specific to SMU. If they were just a Google Lockdown browser and download the one from Virginia Tech, they couldn't get into Canvas here at SMU. It would try and take them to the Virginia Tech Canvas. So obviously it's important that they get it from there. So in that case, we highly recommend that if you're going to use Lockdown browser, that you do a practice quiz that doesn't count for points or anything like that. You could put silly questions in it just to have the students do it. And the importance of that is to get them to go ahead and download Lockdown browser, install it, use it before the quiz that actually counts towards their grade. All right, we'll skip over those. So modules. Modules inside Canvas is a way to kind of organize your course. So the way I like to think of modules is I think of them as containers, and then you put things in those containers. For example, a lot of our instructors will organize their course by week. So this might say week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and that would be your modules. And then inside each module, you would put whatever pertains to that week. So you may have this assignment, you want them to read this, you want them to look through this file, which is attached. You can have a Zoom meeting, that kind of information. You can put in just text, like here's the readings, and you want them to read this. And then here is a quiz. So again, it's just a way to kind of package your course. So like I said, most people do it by weeks. Some people do it by topics. They might do, circulatory system, respiratory system, nervous system. It just depends on how you want to organize your course. With assignments, if you do this in kind of a linear, with modules, if you do this by kind of a linear fashion, let's say like week 1, week 2, week 3, you can set prerequisites. So if you come in here to edit, you can see here that I've set that a student must complete this quiz and score at least a 40 before they can move on to the next module. You can also do it the other direction. So in the next module, if you edit that one, you can set a prerequisite, which means they must have done this before they were able to get into this assignment, into this module. And it's just a way to keep students moving linear through your course, as well as, making sure they're retaining the information they need to score at least a 40 out of 60 to show that they've kind of got the idea, and then they can move on to the next module. Each module can be published and unpublished. If you unpublish it, then you won't see, the students won't be able to get to any of these things from inside here. They can still go to assignments if you have that available and look at the assignment, because it may be published in there, but from here they won't be able to get to it. To add something to a module, you can click the little plus right here, and you can search through your course for any assignment, quiz, file, page, discussion, send them out to an external URL, or even some of the plugins that we might have, and you can put it in. So if I choose a quiz, then it'll give me a list of the quizzes I have in my course, and I can choose any one of them and add it to the course. If I get here and I think, oh wait, I haven't created it yet, I can click on new quiz, and it allows me to create kind of a placeholder for it, and then I can go into that placeholder later and flush it out, put the directions, the questions, and all that kind of stuff. All right, you can always expand them or open them with a little drop down there, and you can move them around and rearrange them by the little handles. All right. The last thing to note in modules real quick is when students are going through this kind of a linear fashion, if you had it set up that way, you can check view progress, which lets you know what student is where in the module succession. So if I click view progress, I come in here and I can see that this student has completed this one, but hasn't unlocked this one yet. So they may not have gotten the score they needed to unlock this one, but they completed this one and this one because I didn't lock them down. And to switch students, I just click on the next student and the next student and the next student, and it'll just tell me that. It is kind of helpful. It doesn't go any more in depth than this, so it doesn't tell you like they completed this assignment, that assignment, but not that one. It just does on a module basis. All right. So new analytics can be on your menu as well. That was the same thing I showed you guys earlier from the home page. Just to let you know, you can put it on the menu on the left-hand side. Outcomes is for institutional level outcomes. This is if you teach a UC course and you have outcomes that you need to report on, you need to have assessed. You can come here, and this is where you would pull those outcomes into your course, and later we go to put them onto an assignment, but that's a whole nother ball of wax. And we have individual trainings for how to do outcomes. Pages, these are kind of like, you can kind of think of them as web pages or content pages. You could create a page and put information in it, pictures in it, videos in it, links to the other assignments that they need to do, that kind of thing. So to create a page, like everything else, you got the big blue button in the upper right-hand corner. Title, directions, who can see this, who can edit it, that kind of information. Now this one here, we haven't really talked about a mastery pass because it's kind of a high level thing. Mastery pass is something that allows you to do like rudimentary or like get them to do information. So like, let's say a quiz. If the quiz is worth 50 points and they score less than 25, you could assign them this page to do some more reading. So you can, it's kind of a remediation. And that's Mastery Paths. And if you have questions about that, definitely put in a help ticket and we can talk about it. But if you click this checkbox here to allow a Mastery Paths, that means that you're going to use this page in some form of remediation. And it will put this page not under pages, but it'll actually put it under assignments because it is something that is assigned to a student based off, let's say, their score. So just to let you know that, because sometimes people will click this not really knowing, and then they go to pages and it's not there anymore. That would be why. And you have your typical save and save publish, just like normal. So I'm going to cancel this. Once you have your pages listed here, you can go in and we can look at a particular page. It just has some basic information on it. You'll notice I have a link here that goes to the syllabus page. If I look at another one, this is where I've embedded videos from, well, it was Linda at the time. It's LinkedIn Learning now, right? I just didn't change the title, but you can embed videos. So it's just a nice little page. When you edit it, you'll get the box here and see all of the code that you have in here. If you're an HTML person, you can always hit the HTML editor and see all the code listed there and edit that. You can always jump back to the rich content editor to get a preview of what it's going to look like. Okay. With each page, the three dots always gives you more options no matter what you're on. You can jump to edit, delete. This is where that use this front page. Remember in the very beginning, we were choosing our home page. You would be able to choose it here by using it as a front page. You can duplicate pages, so if you kind of set up like a little template, if you're going to do multiple ones of these and you want them to all look similar, you can kind of set up a template, got your stuff at the top, the navigation at the bottom, general information or general format, and you can set it as a template in here and leave it unpublished, and then you can just duplicate it and then fill it out, save it as a different name, publish it for the students to see, and that way they all kind of have the same look and feel. Now, with pages and with assignments, and I think even quizzes now, we have these new options to send to or copy to. This is like if you're teaching multiple courses and you create a page in one course and you want to copy it to another course. You don't have to go through the import function and do selected content and all that stuff. You can just send this one particular page over to another course that you might have. If you're working with a colleague and they really like the page you did, again, this also works for assignments or quizzes, you can say, oh, I can share that with you. And you can say send to, and you type in your colleague's email address, and it'll send them a copy of the page or send them a copy of the assignment. And that's how you can kind of share stuff that you create in Canvas. Panopto is our new video management system. And when you click on Panopto for the very first time, it will generate the folder for your course. Now, this is important in the sense that you need to click on Panopto once to at least generate the folder that's necessary to house videos. I won't get in depth into Panopto. This is a whole course by itself, but you can come in here. You can click create and record sessions. You can record yourself. You can record the screen. You can record your PowerPoint. If you've already got a video, you can upload it here. And you can create subfolders. So you can see here that I have a test folder, a subfolder that I created, and that's what that looks like. Once on a video, you can click on a video to look at it. You can look at the captions. You can edit it a little bit. Stats is really cool because you can see if the students, how far they progressed in the video, how many students watched the video, how far did they get in the video, that kind of thing. And you can even create little video quizzes right on top of the video and make that an assignment. And then whatever the student gets, so let's say you make the assignment worth 100 points, and there are 4 questions on top of this video. If they get 3 out of the 4 questions, it'll do the math for you, and they get a 75% for a grade. And that'll go right into the grade book because it is an assignment. All right. People is where you kind of have the roster for the class. You'll see who's enrolled in the class, what section they're enrolled in. And again, if you have multiple sections, you'll see your name in each one of the sections if you've cross-listed them. You can be able to see their ID number, and you can click on them. So let's say if we go down here to this one, and I click on it, you get a context card, and it'll talk to you about who the student is. You can email the student directly. You can look at their grades or their particular analytics. It'll tell you like the last 10 things they've done in the class or gotten grades for, and see how well they're doing in the class, all at just a glance, to be able to see each individual student. This is a great way to kind of refresh yourself about a student if they're going to come into office hours, or you're going to meet them online in our instance right now, and you can see how they're doing. So quizzes. When you come into quizzes, it'll look a lot like assignments. You'll have groups that you can create, and then you'll have your quizzes here, and you'll see that some are published and some are unpublished. I do want to take note that how some icons are an outline and some icons are opaque. And what this is these outlined ones are classic quizzes, and these opaque ones are the new quizzes. Now, Canvas has been working on new quizzes for a few years now, and I think they're still about a year out before they'll roll us over to the new quizzes. Eventually, the classic quizzes will go away and we'll move to the new quizzing function. If you've got quizzes currently created and you want to kind of play with the new quizzes, you can create a new quiz, or you can come over here to the 3 dots and you can migrate your old quiz to the new quiz if you just want to use that function. And again, here's that send to and copy to. Copy to would take it to your own course. Send to would allow you to type in an email address and send it to a colleague. Now, they still have to be using Canvas, of course, to be able to receive that, right? The quiz is listed here. If you want to create a new quiz, you click the new button at the top, and you'll be prompted whether you want to do a classic quiz or a new quiz. Right now, if you're going to use Lockdown Browser, you have to use classic quizzes. So I'm going to choose Classic Quiz and click Submit. And it looks, again, familiar. You have a title, you have all your directions here, and all your fancy plugins or formatting. You can say whether or not you want this to be just a practice quiz, so it doesn't count as a grade. You're just kind of seeing where the students are at. You can grade it. You can do a graded survey, which is more like polling questions, or you can do an ungraded survey, which is kind of again, makes perfect sense. You're not grading the survey, you're just getting to see where they're at. You can put this in any particular assignment group. So if, say, for example, I want to put that into a quizzes assignment group that I've created because I've decided in my class that quizzes are worth 10% of the grade, this is where you would choose that subcategory. If you have multiple choice questions, shuffle answers is a great thing. That way the students can't say, well, 2 is C, because it may not be C for them. It may have been B or A, and it may not have even been number 2. Time limit makes perfect sense. You want to give them 30 minutes to take the exam, you can do that here. You can allow them to have multiple attempts, and you keep the highest score, or maybe keep the latest score, or you can keep the average score. And you can limit it. They only get 2 attempts or 5 attempts, or you can leave it wide open and just let them take it over and over and over for what they're doing. Now let students see the response. Again, at the end of the quiz, lets them see whether they got the question right or wrong. Sometimes you don't want this, or sometimes you want to let them see the answers, but not until after the due date when everyone has taken the quiz. So this is important when you're allowing multiple attempts. You don't want to give them the right answer so that they can kind of game the system where they just come in and choose C for everything and then write down the right answers and then come back and take it again. So you probably definitely want to move this to only let them see the answers after the due date of the exam. You can do it 1 question at a time, and again, this helps cut down on cheating so that they can't see the entire exam and share screens and say, oh, well, show you this question and that question. 1 question at a time lets them focus. We don't use IP filtering here at SMU, but you can require an access code, basically a password, to get into the exam, and if you can give that to them as necessary. With a quiz, like an assignment or a discussion, you can assign it to an individual or to a section. The individual comes in handy if you have like student athletes who aren't going to be in the class that day. You can turn it on for an individual student on a different date than everyone else in the class. So that's how you can make that exception. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. Once you've created your quiz, all the directions and everything, you'll need to go to questions. And you could create new questions, or if you've already created question banks, you can find questions out of a question bank, or you can create a group of questions, which means something like if I had 20 questions in my question bank, I want every quiz to get 10 questions out of that 20 and shuffle them around, and that way everybody's quiz is slightly different. And that's how a question group works. When you create new questions, it looks very familiar. You create a title, you got your different question types, you type the question in here, you type the answers in here, and this is how you mark which one's correct. So if this one's correct, I'm going to mark that one as correct. These little boxes here allow you to provide feedback. So you could tell them, no, this is not the correct answer, check page 25, or whatever kind of feedback you want to offer. If there's more than 4 options, you can add more options here. These feedback options at the bottom, instead of being individualized per answer, are feedback for the entire question. And that might be a little more useful in the beginning as opposed to feedback to each individual answer. When you click update question, then that question will be done and you can create a new question and a new question, and it becomes a repeating process. I do highly recommend that when you're going to create a quiz for the first time, if you're going to do, especially if you're going to want to pull 10 out of 20 questions or pull certain questions, is to come up here and create your question banks first before you create the quiz itself. That way you can create a question bank, you can call it circulatory system, and you can create your 20 questions for the circulatory system. And then when you go in and create your quiz, all you have to do is go to questions and say, question group, pull from the circulatory bank 10 questions worth 1 point apiece, and then you have your 10-point quiz set up. All right, we've already talked about syllabus. I'll mention Zoom real quick. And this will show you all of the Zoom sessions that you have upcoming. It is specific to you. If you want to create Zoom meetings for this Canvas course, you'll need to create them inside here if you want the students to be able to click on Zoom and see the meeting. You can create them on the website, but you'll need to provide the students with the join URL. And you can do that through an announcement or through an email. And then the last thing is settings. Here in the settings course, this is where you can put that card picture up that we talked about earlier. You can put any picture you want in here. You can change your dates for your course. This is important if your course goes past the normal semester. We do have the dates put in for the quote-unquote normal semester, but if yours runs a couple of weeks later, you'll need to change the end date here and check the little box that makes sure students can participate during that end date. Your navigation is where you can change this menu here. So for example, maybe you're not using library help, you're definitely not using McGraw-Hill, those kind of things. You can click the 3 dots and say disable, and it'll drop it down to this space down here, and you would need to click save. So that's important to remember, is that after you've got your menu the way you want it, you can click save. And you'll notice here that this is not the typical order. I put mine in alphabetical order so I could quickly find them. And you can arrange these in any order you want. Just make sure you hit save when you're all finished. All right. You pretty much don't have to worry about too much of these other information here. Course statistics is a neat view. It allows you to see what the assignments are, like how many you've had, how many submissions you've had. It's kind of an overview of your entire course. And like the most recent logged in students, that kind of information. I find the new analytics to be more useful than that, but I just wanted you to know it was there. When you get a new course for the first time, say you're teaching this for the first time, and then you come back in fall, this is where when you come in the fall course, this will all be blank. You can say import, and then you can pull all the information from your spring course over, and it'll copy it all over for you. The last things to note before I let you guys go today is this is the global navigation. You'll notice that no matter where we were in the course, this did not change. You guys won't have an admin tab, but this is your personal profile. You can click on that and you can change your profile settings here, talk about yourself, put in a bio, or change your picture, that kind of thing. Notifications is a place where you can set up how often and frequency of your notifications. You'll notice that mine are all immediately. You can change them to later in the week or on a particular day. And students can do this too. This is important to remember, that even though you've put out a bit of information, they may not get a notification about it if they've set it to not come in but once a week. They can change that, including announcements in a course. One of the things you definitely want to do is make sure that you've turned on announcements created by you. And that means you get a copy of every announcement you send out, or every down here, conversations created by me, you'll get a copy of a conversation. A conversation in Canvas is inbox. It's very much like email. It's just called conversation so that we don't mix up the words email and the stuff you would do inside Canvas. You can create one and send it to a particular course. So you would select the course and you can send it to the teachers, the TAs, the students, or individual sections and send that out. When they do, you'll get a notification in your Outlook and you'll get a copy of it here, and it just stacks them on top of each other, kind of like Google Mail. Whew. Okay, so I think we hit it. We hit the end of our time. I've got to end the meeting now so we can start our next meeting. I want to thank all you guys for coming, and if you have questions, you can always reach out under this help button here. You can look at the Canvas guides. You can talk to someone, a Canvas expert, 24/7 on a phone, or chat them up. And we pay for this service. It is directly to instructors, so they are the Canvas experts. And you can always call our help desk at SMU. All right, thanks everybody.